Hello everyone. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my card making space. And today I am part of a blog hop to share inspiration and ideas using the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated Inks, which I've used since they first released them, whenever it was. Gosh, I don't even remember when they first came out, a couple years ago. Longer than that, I think. Anyway, I love them. Use them for all sorts of things. And today I did one of my favorite things, which is watercolor with them on die cuts. Because how can we not? I love it. So I used oldie but goodie favorites of Wafer dies, and then a sort of newer stamp set, did some ink blending, splatter, of course. And like always, I will have links below to everything I used. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's also worth checking out my blog post, which will always be directly linked below as well, because I'll have links to all the other stops on the hop. And there's also a coupon code that is only good for this weekend, like the May 16th is when this video goes live. I'm just trying to plan ahead. Only good for the weekend. That info will be in the description box below as well as on my blog. So yeah, that's it for the chatter. Let's get into making the card. I started off with the Elegant Blossom Branch wafer die and the layered Warbler wafer die. And I die cut them from just some distress watercolor paper. And then to do my coloring, I'm going to stick these to my well-loved stamp and stencil mat, which has some adhesive on it. I've talked about this in other videos because I've got, a bunch of grip mats. I use those a lot, the photopolymer ones. I do find I really like to use one of these, like the stamp and stencil mat, when I'm specifically watercoloring die cut pieces, because this has like a very low-tech adhesive on it. And as you can see, mine is super stained, especially when you use like red, anything with red. So bright pinks, all that kind of stuff. All I do with these mats is, and it's the same thing with my photopolymer ones, I rinse it under water. If it gets really inky, it's going to stain, it's fine. But I rinse it under water, let it air dry, and it's good to go. Don't use like a soap on it. Don't scrub it because you don't want to like literally remove that adhesive. And then I just put the little plastic carrier sheet back on it. And I've been using the same mat as you can see because it's just covered. But it works. So I had stuck my little pieces to it. And then I'm using a bunch of Simon's Positively Saturated inks to do my coloring. So I smushed the inks to my little plastic palette. Any non-porous type surface will work. And then I'm just painting the inks with a brush. And this is another one of those things, like I said in the intro, like it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm like, it's hard to describe the thought process. I find watercoloring on die cuts very freeing. I find trying to watercolor like a stamp, like in a no-line way. If I've stamped and heat embossed an image, heck yes. But doing like no-line watercolor, I find it to be, it's very time consuming. But watercoloring die cuts, I think is just a great sort of medium. Because you don't have stamp lines to worry about, anything like that. And you can get, as involved as you want, or you can do like I do more often than not and just slap the color on and let it do its thing. And that's what I did. I will have all the very specific colors that I used. For the branch, I'd used Cabbage and Field. Those are my two greens. And I used Cocoa and Mocha for the browns. For my little florals, it was Melon, Honey, and Guava. And you saw I just let them kind of mix and do their thing. I've been very much in a pinky, peachy, yellowy sort of mood lately. Plus, I thought those would really pop because I plan on doing a very dark background for the card. And then for my little birdie, I used Fawn and Cozy and Woodsy and a bit of the brown. Kept him very neutral. And I just used like a black marker for the little dot on that makes up the eye, because I was like, I'm not going to bother die cutting a scrap of cardstock for that. Just quickly colored it with a marker and I was good to go. And then assembling these die cuts, super simple. Just followed the image on the packaging. And once I had my little florals adhered, I'm just using my craft tacky glue. I'm going to stick them to the little branch, and then I can assemble my little bird. And for him, I just stuck a little piece of tape to the back to stick the little dots that were die cut for the eye, just to stack them up proper. And then same thing. He's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty simple to assemble. I do enjoy the more involved wafer die cuts and that sort of thing, you know, where you've got the whole layering guide, all the things. And then other times it's so nice to just not have to think. Especially lately. I quite enjoy it. So, and he's cute. He's really cute. So after I die cut him, I took a piece of, this is Simon's Rainforest cardstock. This came out, they released a few new colors back in December, something like that. This is a little bit lighter weight. If you're used to Simon Says cardstock, most of their cardstock, like the original, is very heavyweight, like 110 pound on average. This one is about a 90 pound, so it's a little bit thinner, but not by much. The color is just, mwah, chef's kiss, love it. So I wanted to just deepen it. So I started with Raindrop Positively Saturated Ink, and I blended that just kind of from the bottom corner with a blending brush. And then I brought in Night, which is like a navy color of ink, and added that. And I honestly, when I was doing this, like once I was done blending this panel, I was like, I wasn't feeling it. But I was like, you know, I'm going to die cut it and just see how I feel after I die cut it. Because sometimes you just never know. So I'm going to die cut it with the Whirl diamond plate that I've used. This one I've also used in like multiple videos. I love that background die. I had misplaced it. Big surprise. A while ago, and I couldn't find it for the longest time. And then I came across it again, and I was so happy. It's like, oh yeah, I have this die. I love it because the detail. And yeah, once I die cut it and how it looks against my card base is going to be that same Rainforest cardstock. So it's a top folding A2 note card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this Whirl diamond plate background with that, the Raindrop and Night inks, that contrast, love it. Love it. Although I love this die cut just as is. I've talked about this. I like using like patterned wafer dies, that sort of thing, and just do tone on tone for backgrounds as well, because it just adds that texture without adding anything too distracting. But this just, I wanted like a moody background. So that's what I was kind of aiming for. And then that way, as you can see, the florals and the bird really stand out. So once I was happy with my background, I adhered it with Craft-Tacky glue. And I did the same thing with my little branch. I ended up tucking a couple little just thin foam squares just behind the florals. So they're popped up just a smidge, not much. So stuck those behind there. And then I did the same thing with my little birdie as well. Just put some little thin foam squares behind him. So he's also just got that little extra bit of dimension. And then once I get him popped into place, I'm of course going to add splatter. So I'm using my liquid white snowflake, which they don't make anymore. So I will, once I'm used up all of this, I'm going to go back to using my Ranger Perfect Pearl powder, which I used in tons of videos. With the Ranger Perfect Pearl powder, specifically in Perfect Pearl, I could have just put that on my palette, added a bit of water. It ends up looking the exact same in the end. So same. So I splattered that with my fan brush onto this background, and it just gives it that shimmer love. And you could always stop here, but I'm going to add some black splatter because I want to. So once I splattered this on, I'm going to take my black gouache. I'm going to put that on my palette. I managed to literally, like, I had it everywhere. It was just one of those times, you know, where you just make a mess. If you guys could see my entire desk right now, like my laptop is like propped on top of stacks of cardstock. Anyway, I put the black gouache on my palette, watered it down a bit, and then lightly splattered this. I didn't add very much, just a little bit. And then immediately cleaned up the gouache, because if I hadn't, I would have managed to get my elbow in it, and that stuff stains, just full stop. Just be wary of that stuff. I love it, but it will stain pretty much everything it comes in contact with. So I set that aside to dry. I grabbed another piece of the Rainforest, right? Rainforest, yes. Getting the ink and the cardstock mixed up. Anyway, the Rainforest cardstock, and I'm using one of the sentiments from the CZ Design Inside Greetings 1 set. I'd used my anti-static powder tool. I stamped the sentiment with Simon's clear embossing ink, and then heat embossed it with Simon's white embossing powder, melted it with my heat tool, buffed away that excess anti-static powder with my microfiber cloth, and then I die cut this sentiment with one of the sentiment label wafer dies. And then I'm going to just kind of tuck this, just literally kind of tuck it right below that little bloom and that leaf there, right on the card front, and adhere it directly down. And then I can flip this over once I've got this on there. I can flip this card over and then just use the edge of the card to give me a guide to trim off that excess, that and a little bit of the branch that were hanging over the edge. And then I took a panel of white cardstock that I had trimmed down to about 4 by 5¼ inches. And I'm going to stamp another sentiment from that same Inside Greetings 1 set. And that I'm stamping with the Raindrop ink. So I'd stamp that and then I'd adhere that to the inside of the card. And then as my final little embellishment, I'm using the Pastel Tones Positively Dazzling Gems because there are pink, yellow, and a peachy color in there, which went with the florals. And as always, when you put them on the card front, like on camera, they almost disappear, especially on dark backgrounds. But in real life, they pick up the light. And I will tilt this, at the end so you guys can see so you guys can all see the shiny, because that's my favorite part. So I picked them up with my little embellishment wand and just adhered them into place with dabs of craft tacky glue. And that finished off this card. She's got our little birdie and our florals and just really simple watercoloring. It's fun. And yeah, like I mentioned in the intro, definitely worth checking out my blog post. That'll be linked below, along with all the supplies, all the things. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with me today and for thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate all of you. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!